Welcome to the Divine Radiance Project with your host, Stacey Turner, and co-host, Emma McDonald, where we share all about reclaiming your radiance as women in business, holistic health, money, mindset, and juggling it all around mum life. A place for women to learn about financial independence, entrepreneurship, and balance. From women who aren't scared to speak their mind and their truth. It's time to shine your brightest self and be the lighthouse. Hey guys, welcome back to the Divine Radiance Project. It is so good to have you here. Today I am joined by the beautiful Ange, Angela Baklis. She is, I may have mispronounced that, but we'll get to that in a sec. She is an osteopath and movement coach who has almost 20 years experience working with clients on overcoming pain and building strength and mobility. Ange now teaches people online with her husband, Marty, how to adapt or adopt even a movement lifestyle and train strength and mobility for longevity, which is so important. After having her baby girl, Halo, Angela has now launched Move and Mama programs for pre and postnatal and has a passion to help mamas prepare their body for birth, for an easier birth and postpartum, which are all topics that I'm very excited and passionate about too. So I'm really excited to have you here, Ange. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So fun. So I guess let's start with, I would love for you to tell us a bit about yourself in your own words, and maybe what were some of the main pivotal moments in your life that have led you to where you are now?
Yeah, great start. Okay, when I finished school, I knew I wanted to help people, and I was dancing at the time and loved dancing, loved movement. Yeah, I discovered osteopathy and resonated with the values and the philosophy of osteopathy, that the body is a self-healing, that everything's interrelated and things like that, structure and function. We look at like the whole body as a whole, not just like in separated parts. And so that really resonated with me. But I was like young, just out of school, studied osteopathy, went straight into working. And I just found myself, one of the first pivotal moments was a few years into working, really. And when people were just coming back and they were like, fix me, or you do the same thing you did, do that thing you did last time that helped me. Oh, this is back, but it was great for a few weeks. And I was just like feeling very unfulfilled because I felt like I wasn't really helping people. I wasn't really getting to the root cause of it. And at that same time, I was dealing with my own kind of gut issues and things going on in my body and kind of being picked off from doctor to doctor. I did the kind of medical thing and I was looking for more root cause. And then I looked at my own work and I'm like, I'm really not getting to root cause helping people either. And so I'm a bit of an all or nothing sometimes gal. And we decided to move overseas for a year. So Marty and I quit whatever I was doing. We saved up and we moved to France, to Paris for a year. And at the time I was still dancing. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on dancing for a year because I'm still young and that's just to take my mind off it and reset what I want to do in life. And while I was there, I actually studied integrative nutrition, and Marty did as well, where we did it together. And that kind of helped me piece some of the bits together of my own health. Like I was dealing with Achilles tendonitis, and as a dancer that was just horrendous, and I was taping my ankles and wearing all like really built. Now I like pretty much am barefoot all the time, but at the time I was like wearing high top Nikes and all of that sort of stuff. And then I did some changes to my diet and healed my gut, and like a switch, my tendonitis disappeared. And that was the first kind of thing of, oh wow, like I fixed the inflammation in my gut and the inflammation in my ankles just disappeared. It was wild. It was, one of those first kind of things on my own body that I was like, oh, wow, I have the power to actually, I did it myself. I didn't rely on anyone else. Of course, I had amazing practitioners, functional practitioners helping me, but it was a lot. A part of the healing, a lot of the protocols was me having to change my lifestyle and change what I was doing quite drastically. And so that kind of put me in more of a passion of helping people before they get to that stage, before they get to the bit where they're like, I'm in so much pain, fix me, or I need this medical care. And it's funny because even in high school, I wanted to work in the hospital. And then I want to help people before that. And now I'm even like, before any of that. And in even having Halo, I'm like, let's help kids, because we help babies to get healthy and born when they're, sure we'll get to it, but if they're born as physiologically as possible, it's not always possible. If we do the things as much as we can to take care of our health and how we were magnificently designed, and we take care of that, then there's no need for intervention anyway down the track. So my passion has rolled into more of a preventative health sort of style, and that's led me to what I do today. So when we got back from France, we actually started, the A-Lab was actually a blog first when I was in France, and I was all on life and health and mindset and all different things. And then we created a studio, a strength and mobility studio, and I was still treating. I had to go back to treating because the rent of owning a studio was just wild. It was stressful to run a studio with 10 practitioners and just paying the rent, and I had to do a lot. And I realized that I went backwards. It's funny, you take the leap forward once and you like get yourself into alignment, and then slowly you can find yourself back into, I really felt like the business was running me and I wasn't in control anymore. It was like this beast I'd created that I just had to keep fueling. And so then COVID happened and we had to close in Melbourne. Our studio was probably closed for about 9 months of that whole thing, which was quite a big chunk of time. And a lot of studios went online during that time. And I actually, because A-Lab was always a blog, I always wanted to go online. And I can remember a business coach at that time just telling me like that the market, and this was like 5 years earlier, was like the market's flooded for fitness and that kind of thing. And it's do what you don't start anything new. And I got pushed down a little bit and I was like, okay, maybe that is too hard. And then I had this opportunity in COVID where our studio was closed, so we were home all day, and I'm not the type of person to just chill at home. It's just not really me. And I Googled, I think, like how to start a TikTok or something, and I was like, wow, Marty, if we're gonna do online, then we have to put our product out there, and that's like us. So we just started sharing how we move. We started sharing our movement philosophy, our workouts and our movements. And I think like we probably posted for about a month, and then I don't know, we had 1 or 2 get 4 or 5 million views or something ridiculous. And we were just like, it was a hip video, hip mobility. And we started to realize that like our approach to fitness was different to the fitness industry, because we don't come from like a PT background. We come from more like dance movement. We studied under this teacher called Ido Portal. So we did a lot of, all different kinds of movement. But the thing is, with that sort of movement, it was very designed for like PTs, real acrobatics, or people who do calisthenics. And then the average person just had to go to a Les Mills class or something or something really boring. So we found this kind of gap between the people who were training high level and really taking care of their bodies in that space, and then the average person who workouts and probably doesn't even touch the ground for their whole workout. And so we started, helping people learn how to just get these like fundamentals, learn how to sit back into a deep squat, learn how to get up and down off the ground with ease and things like that. And we realized that there was a real need for that. And so that kind of brings us to what we do now, which is, we just teach online strength, mobility, movement, and really in that preventative mindset, in that as we get older, our bodies, of course, we start to lose muscle. We maybe start to get less mobile in our joints, but that's only if we do nothing. That's only if we do nothing about it. There's no reason why you can't maintain your joint mobility. No reason why you can't maintain your muscle mass as you from your 30s and be all the way to 90, 100. So it's if you stop doing the things, like we lose our ability to do the things we stop doing. And I think it's easy to say, oh, I can't get up and down off the ground anymore, but it's like, it's because you don't, because I'm old, but it's because you don't do it anymore. So that's where we've really found our happy place, because we love movement. We do that anyway. And then I really love that sort of helping people just stay healthy, so they never even have to go down that path of needing a hip replacement or having chronic inflammation problems and things like that.
Love that. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that part of your story. It's really cool. And actually, we're very similar. So this is the first time that Ange and I have actually had a conversation. So it's really fun getting to know each other
Yeah.
through this experience. Very similar to me and my husband, Matty, which always gets auto-corrected to Marty whenever in that movement piece and then the holistic nutrition, just a
Mm.
different way that we ended up there. So we both went to 3 and 4 PT, found each other through CrossFit, and didn't like the way that a lot of the CrossFit stuff was being taught because we were more of the Ido Portal kind of functional movement for
Oh,
nourishment rather than punishment kind of
yes,
mindset.
totally.
Um, and it gets lost between that movement for competition versus movement for health and well-being. And then the prevention piece is so important. We'll have to have a chat maybe afterwards. I also have a bunch of autoimmune stuff, and it's so I actually love like when people hear practitioners talk about I had XYZ go on and they think, oh, you poor thing. People are in that victim mindset of, oh, no. But I can tell you're very similar to me in that when we build out the roadmap and we know what's happening inside our bodies, we can work with it rather than feeling like it's a punishment or we're being forced to do something that we don't want to do. It's almost like we're being guided to what we're meant to be doing anyway. Like the style of eating that is so beneficial for any kind of autoimmune disease or any kind of inflammation in the body is how everyone should be eating anyway for optimal health and well-being. It's just that we've been guided here. And everything you were saying, I was getting like goosebumps through my body and going, yes. But I just wanted to let
Yeah.
you speak rather than interrupting because it was so amazing. Guys, listeners, if you're hearing what Ange is saying, I hope that you can feel the passion in her voice. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you can see the passion because no matter what someone like Ange does, with the amount of passion that you bring to everything, like you will be giving your gift to the world, regardless of what the platform is that you're offering. But it's so awesome that you found, yeah, root cause and prevention, and that you're setting people up for success from the very beginning. It's like, how far back can we go? Like
Yeah.
preconception and all of that beautiful stuff.
Totally. And it's
It's
funny, we get a lot of people come to our programs from they already have burnt out, they've already got the adrenal burnout, or maybe they have an autoimmune thing going on. And the HIIT workouts, CrossFit are just not working for them anymore. And it's really important that we check in. I think when we get to our, I don't know, 30s, 40s and beyond, you want to get fit again. And you're like, what worked in the past? And maybe you're like, oh, in my 20s, that HIIT workout, I don't know, shred program that I did, that was like, I felt amazing. And so then you go back and you try and do that, but all you end up doing is like going through the cycle of burnout again, because what worked before is you're not that person anymore. Your hormones are not that same. Your body is not the same. Your stress is what's going on in your life is not the same. So it's important that we stop and be like, what is going on in my life and what movement practice, what exercise is actually going to work, because our body reads stress. Whether we read like a stressful text message or we do a HIIT workout, our body reads it the same. So if you're like a corporate and I don't know, you're a lawyer and you've got a really stressful job, and then you get home late and then you go and you do a late, I don't know, full on CrossFit workout. Nothing wrong with CrossFit, but it's not for everyone. And you go and do that workout, and then you go again next day and to get up, you're exhausted, but then you got to push through and have coffee and get through the day and then do your workout again and to give you energy. You're in this like cycle that's just going to end up at the end probably with some sort of chronic inflammation and chronic disease. So it's important that we do stop and just be like, and if you're listening, this is a really good reminder. Even I do this all the time. Is what I'm doing now actually working for me? And do I feel good? Because if you're not feeling good, then it's time to like shift and change.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many people get so wrapped up in the shoulds and what we should be doing, and they don't stop to go, how can I individualize this to me in my life where I'm at? So yeah, working with practitioners. And I love everything that you've shared previously to this point is all about the individual taking ownership and remaining in charge and empowered to make their own choices. So it's like when you're given the information, you then can make a more informed decision about how you want to proceed. And if you're being told to exercise, but you're chronically fatigued and working yourself to the bone and you don't have your other health pillars in place, like Maddie and I, my husband, we used to run a nutrition company. That's what I studied at uni. And we had the 7 pillars of health. If you don't have your sleep in place, if you don't have your circadian rhythm set because you're not getting enough sunshine first thing in the morning, like there are free, tangible things that we need to put into place for our lives before we tap into going hard in a workout. And yeah, I think we're on the same page there. So if this is like new to you, if you're hearing this kind of stuff for the first time, then maybe you guys need to reach out to Ange or tap into a resource that's going to help you figure out what you need as an individual right now. And then once you've got that information, you can make better decisions for yourself. Yeah, we're not saying don't work out. We're just saying find movement is essential. Movement is absolutely essential. And as you were saying before, if you can't get off the ground, use it or lose it. We need to keep getting you up and down off the ground. But maybe there's a style of movement that is going to suit you more than the person at the gym that's telling you to go faster and harder and lift heavier weights, when really you should just be reconnecting with your own body in that moment. So yeah, really beautiful.
Okay.
I love that. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned before, I can hear the passion that you have to share, but what would you say is your gift that you get to share with the world?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me, and it's taken me a lot of years when I think about it to actually step into what my purpose or my gift here is to actually put out in the world. And I've always been one of those people just lead by example. I'm one of those, I'm a generator and human design, and I'm very much, if I show the way, like I do it on myself, and then I can then teach and share. And I look back, even when I was younger, I was always teaching, always sharing movement and things. And I think when I started osteopathy and I started treating and doing, I lost my way. And then I had the business and I was managing people. And I'm like, I'm definitely, my gift is not managing a team. I can hardly say that. That was not me. It's funny when you do things that are just not in your alignment, and I guess you could say alignment, but and then you go to something that is, and it just feels so much more free flowing. Like for me and for Marty as well, I think, I don't want to talk on behalf of him, a lot of people talk about work-life balance and making sure you've got these boundaries between your work and your day-to-day home life. But to be honest, like we don't really have those boundaries in place so much. Everything blurs, but at the same time, we love what we do. Like there's no switch on to work, switch on to home life. Like we recently traveled for 3 months working with our baby girl, and we would get up, maybe would film a class in the morning. We'd do some emails, we'd have our lunch, and then we would go out in Greece and explore someplace in the day. I didn't care that I was on holiday filming a movement class in the morning, because I would have been working out in the morning anyway. It was like just so fulfilling either way, that I think and what I realized from talking to people is then not only were people inspired by us moving and the way we fit in we can still get in our movement practice, still get in our strength, stay strong and stay mobile with a baby, but we're also traveling with a child and not getting fear take over us of that we can't do that, and just doing things a little bit outside the box. And so I've realized that's what we do best. That's what I feel like a gift to the world is to really just inspire other people, show them like what's possible.
Yeah, so good. A different way, like think outside the box. And hubby and I have talked a lot about this. We used to teach about boundaries for people in the corporate world. So I can completely relate to what you're saying, because I feel from an intuitive perspective, boundaries are only necessary when you're not loving what you're doing for your work and you feel like you need to separate it.
You need to compartmentalize a bit.
Yes, because if work is controlling, maybe when you were at that point, like you said before, about work was this beast that had taken over me and it was running me, then you probably needed to enforce some boundaries, and you put some things in place even organically without even realizing that they were boundaries. And the beauty of running your own business is you get to be in charge of that stuff at all times, and we have full sovereignty over how we run our lives. And again, I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's so cool meeting someone like a soul sister and you're like, yes, where I couldn't work for somebody else. Like I struggle to have a boss. When I have taught yoga, I definitely see myself as I'm a contractor, you're not my boss kind of thing. I'm coming in and we have a client relationship, but then I'm out again and I've got my autonomy of my own life. I can pick and choose what I want to do. And so I think we naturally enforce boundaries because if it's not in alignment, we say no to it. And that is boundaries in a different way to maybe what the corporate person needs to do, whether, oh, I shouldn't be sitting at my computer at 10 o'clock at night, because you're not loving what you're doing. You're being told to do that by your boss, and
Yes. I
to
can
keep your
remember
job.
taking holidays back when we had the likes of business, like the bricks and mortar business. And like notoriously, every time we tried to take a break the first week, I would get like this throat infection. So the first week of us going on a holiday, it's like everything came out and I was sick for the first week. And then literally, I remember even the last holiday when we had the bricks and mortar business, on the flight home from America, I think we got like an email from one of our employees, like saying that he wanted to leave and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I can remember on that flight home, like how stressed I was after this lovely holiday. And I was just like, this is not cool. Like I'm trying, like I was really trying my best. And in some ways with that high stress, I feel like we dealt with it very well. Like we really kept up our movement practice. We were so solid on our ice baths and our saunas we were doing a lot of things. But now I look back and I'm like, we were like grasping onto those things because that was the stuff that was like those tiny moments that were bringing us joy. But then when you look overall, we were actually just like way overwhelmed and not loving our life situation, which is really hard. As an osteo, I found it very hard, like with people who were dealing with a lot of sickness and chronic issues. And I would say, really, you need to change a job.
Yes.
But I can't really, no one wants to hear that. And maybe they were a shift worker, and I know someone has to do the shift work. And I'm in awe of those people who do. But if your priority is your health, if that's one of your top alignment values of life, then you need to look at your work has to align with that. So I found that very difficult when I would have a patient there and they just had a job that wasn't, and I know it doesn't mean that today or tomorrow you have to go and change your job. But if you're reflecting and you're like, actually, this style, and maybe there's some things that you could change, or maybe there's some things that you need to look for a different style of work. We had the studio only 2 years ago. So I was actually doing a podcast a couple of weeks ago with someone talking about how we traveled for 3 months with our baby. And I was like, oh my God, if you had told me that 2 years ago, when we were like in the stress of COVID, running a business with this team that we're trying to navigate everything. If you were to say, oh, in 2 years, you're going to have this baby and you're going to be traveling Europe and I would have been like, there's just no way. So I also want to say that things can change. Your situation we all have control. It might not be for tomorrow, but you can start to put things in place to have the life that you want. Like before Halo, I knew that we didn't want to put her in childcare or kinder or whatever that is. And we wanted to be, both me and Marty wanted to be spending our days with her. So we really set up selling our business, working online was really the moves to, not just because that's the work what we wanted to do, but that's the overall life balance that we wanted to have with our baby. We wanted to have our family where we can work and play, take her to the park in the middle of the day. So that was like important to us. So you can like just sit and figure out what's important to you. And then even if it's in a year's time, move towards that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's having that awareness and then the intention. If we believe that where we are is where we're stuck and we can't do anything to change it and we're not happy, speaking of your clients, it's never going to change. And I don't know much about German new medicine theory, but it's like it's manifesting in your body because you hate your job. You've got all this anger pent up,
Totally.
and you feel
It's
stuck with the golden shackles that are keeping you there. It's envision a different future and then start to take the little steps to help you get there. And I'm also a generator. I feel like it's easier in human design, guys. If you're like, what's this generator business that you guys are talking about? Go Google human design and figure out which one you are, because you can learn so much. Again, it's that roadmap. You can learn so much about yourself through astrology, through human design, through epigenetics, all of these different beautiful ways of us connecting more with who we are so that we can live in more alignment with who we are and make decisions based on that. So I think a big part of that is the system, whatever you want to refer to as the system, encourages people to disconnect from themselves and give their power over to an external force. And people like us are all about bringing it back. That is my gift in the world, is helping women specifically, but people to reclaim themselves, to come home to themselves and to reconnect to their intuition, because we're so disconnected from decision-making processes. And sometimes we make decisions from fear rather than from that deep knowing and that understanding. And it can really send people on a bit of a spiral, and making decisions to stay in jobs that they don't like, which then results in dis-ease, because you are hearing the truth of Ange. If you're one of her osteopathy clients and she says to you, you probably need to change your job, the truth is uncomfortable, but that truth is so much more powerful when you sit with that discomfort and you move and you work through that. When you come out the other side of that and go, okay, what do I want to do? Where could I be earning an income alongside what I'm doing now to start to get me out of this hellhole or whatever it is that you're in, like whatever words come to mind? That's so doable compared to the comfort coffin that people get stuck in, where they're like stuck in their victimhood of the job that they hate and the pain that they're experiencing and the having to numb themselves with alcohol and cigarettes and all of the things, right? Like we could unpack so much. But what I love about what you shared is just that it's all about what's actually important to the person, like getting back to that, because so many people don't even know what that is yet. And that's such a beautiful, your movement, like your gift that you're offering to the world and helping people do that, that is getting people back in their bodies is the first step to reconnecting to intuition and yourself. So beautiful.
Totally, because we can get so stuck in like our brain of what's the next logical, what's the next step in the corporate ladder, what's the thing that my parents are expecting me to do in the next step, like all those things. We can just be listening to our logical brain and we forget what our actual, like as kids, it's easier to listen to like what your heart's telling you to do, but as adults, we start to dull that down. And like I can remember just before I've just had so many moments of that where you have had to come back to actually what is true for me. Like I can remember right before I went to France and we went for a year, I don't even know if it was a homeopath or some practitioner and had me like hooked up to this thing. And I remember him saying to me, I'm listening, I'm only just making decisions out of my brain and not my heart. And it was just, I know that sounds like so simple and so silly really, but I remember crying and being like, oh my gosh, this up until now, I'm not saying I regret learning osteopathy. It was like, that's the thing you got to do. That's the next logical thing. I didn't ask what is actually like burning in my heart to do next. And even in the medical system, like I can also remember when I was having a lot of those hormonal issues, I went to a specialist and he said, oh, you've got polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's going to be hard to have kids. Take the pill and come back when you decide you want to have kids. And I could easily have been like, oh my God, he's a doctor. He's wearing a white coat. He has the authority. Therefore, that is true for me. And I could just take that on. But I was like, no, I'm not taking that to mask my hormones. I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to look at to what is fertile. What does even to be fertile mean? And then that was the trigger of, I want kids at the time. I was young and I wasn't even thinking about it, but for some reason it hit me and I was like, oh my God, I can't have kids, even though I didn't really want kids at that moment. But it like made me realize from then to be fertile was to be healthy. And so I just then went on this big kind of health kick to make myself fertile, even though I don't know whether I want it, but I was like, maybe down the track I do. So I'm going to start now. And then I also think, again, it's into that just starting to, just rejecting sometimes what either like our cultural conditioning, what just people around you are saying as true, and actually take a moment to be like, actually, do I believe that? Or do I actually want to take that on as mine? And just saying, you can say no and actually do go on your own journey.
Yes, you can totally change your mind. You can change your direction. And something may have been in alignment for that section of somebody's life. And then, like for me, CrossFit was that thing for that period of time. It gave me so much growth, so much community, so many of the things that I had been seeking to help me break through some massive blocks to then help me get to that next level. But then when it was time for me to have children, I had a loss, and then I had a tarot reading, and then my friend was like, you've been ignoring your guides. Again, I know this might be a bit woo-woo for some people, but it's really in alignment for me. She said, they're knocking on my door. You need to stop CrossFit like yesterday. And I was like, what? Like I knew it in my soul, but I had been ignoring it. I stopped CrossFit, and then the next month we fell pregnant with our now 4-year-old. So it's really when you ignore your intuition and you block things happen not in alignment. And being a mum was the thing that I wanted most at that point in time. So I needed to listen to what my body needed, to where my soul was guiding me. And yeah, when you pay attention to those signs and those synchronicities, you truly can unpack like where you're meant to be and where you're meant to be going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
good.
true. Thank you
I
for
love
sharing.
it.
So what, I think you've alluded to it a fair bit, but if there's anything you want to layer on, what would be your main core values, and how do you think those values impact how you show up in the world?
Yeah, so there's a few. So definitely part of my core values is movement, nature, getting outdoors in nature. That's one of, I've got a few, but these is like some of them, and how I then do it, how I do that practically. So for that, like obviously movement, daily movement is a big priority, but I don't see for me necessarily that as blocking off an hour of like exercise as we conventionally see that. Yes, maybe we do our strength work and we do different like sessions like that. But to me, it's like, how do I actually create a movement lifestyle? So that might be going barefoot. It might be you having less furniture in my house, getting more outdoors and just doing more like organically, like moving, going walking, riding, things like that in my day, so that I'm actually just more active. Because when I'm more active, I'm happier, and I know that. And then also just getting out in nature. When we sold our business, we bought a ute and put a camper on top of our ute so that we could, and we actually just a couple of weeks ago went for the first time with Halo and 3 of us up in the tent above our car, which was quite the experience.
So cool.
But doing those like outdoor, we love camping, getting out in nature, making time to go for drives and get outdoors is like really fills my cup. Like for me, that's really important. We just prioritize that in our life. And to me, even when you've got like a business and you've got business goals, but you have to sacrifice everything along the way to get there, that's not really for me. Like I don't really have this like monetary figure I want to get to, that then when I hit that, I'm like happy. For me, it's I'm already there because I've already got that life balance that I want. Another value is families, to spend time with Halo and my grandparents and us spending every day like intimately with her. So that's what we prioritized in our life. Yeah, just values like that are on the forefront of they're there, but then I'm also constantly, and it's hard because we're not living exactly where we want to be. Like we're in Brunswick, like in the kind of outer skirts of the city, which is quite, yeah, like I wish there was more nature around us. Eventually we want to move out into more backyard and everything, and we'll get there. But for now, that's not our ideal situation. We're not living in our ideal place, but we're making effort to like go out. Me and Marty said with our business now that we can move around, we came up with we were like, do we go live overseas? Do we go live somewhere? And we'll back and forth with that. But then we also have that family, and it's like high in our values as well. And we didn't really want to leave our family and take Halo away from our grandparents. So we came to a sort of a happy medium. We said every winter for 3 months, we're going to travel. That's just what we're going to do. We know that they're the months that we're going to be traveling. And so we did that for the first time last year. And Halo got to experience different countries. We got 2 summers. That's sun is important to me. So yeah, it's just about taking the time. I remember sitting down with Marty and like talking about our values, and then being like, okay, that's great. You can put them down on a piece of paper, but then how are we actually going to translate that regularly? Because we are our habits. We are what we do regularly. It's not, I'm going to say, our high in our value list is like cooking, but then we don't actually, once a month we might cook and take that time to, if that fills up your cup. So we was like, how do we actually make this a big part of our life? And yeah, we had to talk about that. And with a baby, it's not easy to just make things happen. So that's been, I feel like with structure and discipline comes freedom. So we could just be like, oh, we're just going to hope for the best and make it happen, and it probably won't. We get out our calendar and we say, okay, this month, when are we going camping? When are we going for a drive? When are we actually, what month are we going to go traveling? Because that's what makes us happy. So we spend the time to actually put what people would call like a bit of structure and having that discipline of making sure we're moving our body and things like that are from our values list. But in that, it actually gives us like great freedom.
Yeah. There's a beautiful quote that's, don't tell me your values, show me your calendar.
That's
And it's
good.
so true because, yeah, you can
Yes.
say that you believe XYZ, but if you're not doing it, if you're not living it, if you're not practicing it, then what does that even mean? It's just a wish, it's just a dream, it's not a real thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love
I
that.
love that.
We are very similar in that we have a wall calendar, we have a monthly calendar, we have a like, this is what's happening so that we can both, and big on over communication. And as you have more children, that over communication piece gets more and more important to factor in all of the things and make sure that everyone's basic needs get met. Like movement, guys, is a basic need. Having a shower by yourself is a basic need. Mums, if you're not getting those things and you're having to juggle those things, please learn to ask what you need. And I shouldn't have to say that, but I've worked with enough mums now to know that it's something that we need to remind you of. You don't have to be a martyr. You are worthy of this alone time and of being able to do the things that matter to you. And it's going to fill up your cup and make you a better mum, a better wife, and not to be of service to those people for yourself, because you're worthy of that as a human being. But then also, how much will you overflow to then pour into those people that you love as a byproduct of that? So it's just such a beautiful thing to witness. So many, yeah, so many families do, the ones that do live in alignment and show their values in their calendar. And people say, oh, it's so easy for you guys. No, it requires work. It requires commitment, dedication, grit, right? That word that's people are so scared of because, oh, that's not in flow. No, grit is required. Discipline is required to create the freedom to allow. And it doesn't mean that we don't pivot when we need to, and we have resilience and be flexible if we need to, if the kids need us, or if my daughter broke her arm on the weekend, things are a little bit different this week. But going back to the stress piece that you mentioned right at the start, stress isn't going away, right? Like stress is not going away. We can reduce it to some degree, but it's how we deal with the stress that is, whether we end up with burnout or not. I don't know if you're familiar, Ange, with Andrew Huberman. Have you heard much of? Yeah, cool. So we went and saw him last month. He came and spoke live here, and he was speaking about burnout and how it is a thing. And I think often the adrenals get tired, but you can't get adrenal burnout per se. And I was like, yes, okay, I hear what he's saying, because the adrenals always work. But we use that language as practitioners because it's what people understand and it's probably how people feel. But from a scientific base, as Andrew says, it's not what's actually happening in the body. But it's often when people aren't passionate anymore, they're not living in true alignment, that's where they burn out. So I could do CrossFit. I was training 2 hours a day and blah, blah, blah. And it was feeling good because everything else was in alignment and I was passionate about it. When I wasn't passionate about it anymore, that's where I got burnt out. That's where the stress was impacting me in a negative way. It's not that the things that you're doing are bad. It's like coming back to similar to what you were saying before, and it's like what is working for you and what isn't working for you as an individual. And if you're struggling to see what that is, work alongside somebody who helps to mirror back what you need to see in yourself and doesn't try and take that power away from you or tell you what to do, because you are in ownership of that. And so that's so powerful. Like when your core values are so strong, you can inspire others and you're living your gift and inspiring others to do that, which is so cool.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's getting there. Like I can remember before I even like knew what I wanted my values to look like, what I wanted, what I envisioned for my life, I like looked around. I was like, whose life do I really? First, it was sort of looking at celebrities, or because I didn't really know much of like influencers in the social media world or things like that. But like slowly, I'll read books and authors and learning about other people and just finding, I call them expanders, and it's like people who to believe, see if, oh, they're actually living it, they're actually doing that thing. And I would go and dig and listen to all the podcasts of that person and actually see what are they doing, what does their day look like, what does their morning look like, what does their work look like. And they would be, I'd take a little bit of each person, but I think when you're just figuring it out, finding expanders of who are already doing where you want to go is a really good way to put that seed in your brain that it's like first as possible, because sometimes it can just feel really far away. But when you have like your brain has imprinted that, oh, it's actually, this is what it actually looks like, it's possible, it's there, then it's much easier then to then take those small steps towards it.
Totally. And I love that you were seeing other people living that, knowing that it was possible so that you can then do it, and also making it your own as well. Yeah, that's really cool. That's so cool. Okay, so we'll start to wrap up. There's a couple more questions I'd love to ask you. The first one being, is there anything that scares you?
Things scare me all the time in terms of we're always scared of what we don't know. So things I haven't done before, I always have that fear. I just birthed my first baby at home, and that in itself was a huge push of me of moving through something that scared me. If you would ask me about 5 years ago, I probably would have said I'm going to book in a C-section because I just can't even visualize anything coming out of my vagina. I just had the movies in my head. That was just all I really had. And I
We
really
have to
truly believe,
unlearn the system, don't we?
yeah, it was a lot of unlearning. And then a lot of that, I've lived my whole life not listening to my intuition, not listening to my heart. And so it was that relearning to really know that I'm the authority of my body and relearning that whole pattern again. And I truly believe we're scared of what we don't know, what we're the unknown. And even the thought of, I had this idea to take Halo with us for 3 months overseas when she was only like 4 or 5 months old, and like that like scared the bejesus out of me. Like I really was just like, I can't, am I putting her in danger? What if she needs something? What if my breasts don't produce milk for some of that time? I don't know, anything like that. And yeah, but in the end of the day, like I always feel like even when you do the thing and you go with the fear and you show yourself a new opportunity, a new thing you've never done before, you go through it all again. Like it doesn't necessarily make it easier. It just, you've got that evidence that you have done it before, and you do have a little bit more confidence, but it's still, yeah, the fear is still there. So yeah, oh my gosh, there's just so many things I plan to do. I'm always one of those people, I hope I have like several careers in this lifetime. Like I don't want to just do the one thing for my whole life. And so I'm sure there's going to be more things that come up. I'm sure if I go from baby number 2, it's going to go through the whole process all again, because now I know what's coming. But yeah, that's living. That stuff also like really makes me feel alive.
Yeah, that's true growth. That right there, like
Yeah.
feeling the fear and doing it anyway. That's super
Yeah.
cool. Thank you for sharing. We won't go into your birth story today, but I really want to do like a whole season on birth stories because it's just something that me and my co-host Emma are so passionate about. So we're trying to figure out like a weekly time slot where we can interview people together so that we can both get to be a part of the birth stories, because yeah, we love it.
Yes.
We actually just last Friday's podcast, actually it won't be last Friday's when this gets released, but one of our podcasts, it's episode 7 for anyone listening. If you want to go back and listen, Emma and I shared our birth experiences. She's had one baby and hers was a positive hospital experience. My 2 ones had a reasonably positive-ish hospital experience for my first, but there were definitely parts that now I've had a healing home birth, I can really see the stark differences in them. So yeah, I would love to get you back on to do a birth
Yeah.
story chat as well. But so then the last question I have for you is, if time, energy, and money were no obstacle, what would be the one thing that you would want to do, like to impact your life, the world?
I really just want to be a helpful, useful human. Like my why is to you be able to use this vessel, this body, this strength, everything like I have to help people. Like that really, at the end of the day, that fills me up. And that's really why, that's my why of like why I want to stay strong and resilient, is because when was it? When the New South Wales floods came a couple of years ago, like Marty and I actually had just had a miscarriage, and I'd gone through that whole like kind of process, and I had a friend who was up there and she was like telling me about it, and I was like, what can we do to help? And he was like, we actually need like people, like hands to help clear out these houses. And I was like, hey, we're strong, we're vessels, like we could, this is why we train. And we went up there for a week and we picked up rubbish and cleared out houses, and it felt so nice to be able to use our bodies for use for good, whether we like have something like that or whether we're just like someone falls and needs you to help them and pick them up or whatever it is. Like for me, it's just so nice to use opportunities to help people, and that's why I feel like we're on this earth, is to help those around us, make it a better place. Yeah, I would continue to do that whether we were making money or not. Like I feel it's great to have an exchange for what we do in life, but at the same time, I'd be doing what we do anyway, to be honest.
That is so beautiful. I love that. And sorry to hear about your loss as well. It's
Thank you.
never easy. But when
journey.
yes, when we've our babies now in our arms, it doesn't make it easier, but it's sweeter to bring the love back into that process for sure. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's really beautiful that you were able to go and help. Is there anything else that's on your heart today that are parting words that you want to share with our audience?
I think it's something we've been chatting about. I guess I just want to really remind people is to just start small. Don't feel, we've covered like so many topics, and you could just be like, oh my God, there's so many things I need to do. And it can be, especially if I just focus on movement, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to even sign up to anything. You don't have to go buy some equipment. You can literally start by like sitting on the floor for 10 minutes a day, and instead of your couch. Like that in itself is like huge, because as humans, we don't move enough. We don't have enough movement in our day. And just something as simple as that is going to start making you feel better. If you're indoors all day, you can go out for a walk in the middle of your day and get the sun in your face, especially if it's in the morning, even better. But just, you can start really small and do something that's so tiny that you can do it on even like your worst day. Even on a really crappy day, you can still get that one thing done, and just prove to yourself that, okay, cool, I'm now doing this. What's the next thing? I'm now doing this. What's the next thing? It can slowly build. Like a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, I literally have worked on my health for like probably the almost 10 years. It's not like I've done all these things in a year. So it's all well and good me saying, oh, I now can go out and walk barefoot and my feet feel fine and I don't have any aches and pains really. Like sometimes they come, I can manage anything like day to day. But I didn't just do that from a week of doing something. It's come from a long time. And so that's really where the real change happens. Is I say the best time for you to have started was probably 10 years ago, but the second best time is like today. So you can do something today and it's still good. It's still going to make a difference. It's never too late, no matter what age you are. Like and we've got people in our membership really like in their 70s, and we got people in their 20s, like all doing the same thing. They go to the same classes, which I think is really cool. But it's never too late to start making little changes, because it's all going to make a difference. So I hope that helps and just makes it a little bit more tangible for people.
Yes, I love that so much. Just one non-negotiable. It can be a tiny thing, but it can have a massive domino effect into other areas of your life, which then potentially makes the next thing easier, right? Like that sunlight in the morning, or just moving your body that little bit more than you usually would. I heard a crazy stat recently. Prisoners get more outside time than children currently.
I think I saw that as well. That was wild. And I remember,
like, kids, let's go outside. Let's get outside right now.
You really have to make the effort to get outside. And that's such a to me, that's not even like a hard thing to do. We're not asking to lift weights. We're not, just like getting outdoors more in your day actually has such a huge impact on your health. And it's like really not very hard. It doesn't cost anything. It's just changing your environment, making it a bit more of a habit. But I think that really shows the power of like how much we need to look at. Not so much of what we need to do is what is happening in our environment, our daily environment.
Yeah, 100%. So much wisdom. Wow. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, where is the best place for them to connect?
Most of the time we share most of our content on the Instagram, the_A_life. So the A life. And we run like free programs. You can check out our memberships on there too. And then more recently, since I've got my moving mama programs, that's A_mama_life, A mama life.
Beautiful. I'll add it to the show notes so that people can find just one click easy in the show notes. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so fun chatting with you, getting to know you, hearing all of your beautiful wisdom to share with our communities. It's been fun. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Listen, if you love what you heard here today, I would love for you to leave a super quick rating and a review. This helps the show get discovered by new people that need to hear what we have to share. Be sure to take a screenshot of today's episode and shout us out on Instagram, and we will shout you right back. You can find us on Instagram handles It's Stacey Turner and the.emma.mcdonald. If you'd like to find additional resources or work with either of us, then DM us on one of these handles today.